listening. It cannot be a more overstated yet misunderstood word. And we are in an era right now where listening is imperative to our collective survival. And I'm not just talking about what's happening in current events, nor am I talking about what is currently happening on the content creator platform. I'm talking about both ends of the spectrum and everything in between, from a macro to a micro persona. Now, before you Lloyds out there start saying, oh, Boogie Nights, be dramatic again, I listen all the time. Well, hang on a second, Prince or Princess Valiant. I want you to think about something for one moment. When you do claim to listen, let's just say somebody's come to you and they really need to talk to you and they just want you to listen. Do you just actually listen, or do you interject? Do you offer unsolicited advice? Do you flip the table back to yourself, or do you actually ears open, eyes open, lips shut? Just think about that for just a couple of seconds. Now, I am not throwing that stuff out there to throw anybody under the bus, because it's human nature to want to do all of that, and I think it's because it gives us an air of relatability to the person. We want to be able to understand where they're coming from. We want to be able to help them. We want to be able to help them heal, particularly if it's something we really truly relate to. That's not the question or the topic at hand. It's when you do not listen, when you just throw all that stuff out there without taking the time to understand. And that is really where it does more harm than good. And before I kind of go into more about this, I kind of want to just put that out there for how it relates to me. And as always, this is not meant to be a hit piece. This is not meant to be throwing anybody under the bus. This is mainly just expository information, because if you can relate to this at the receiving end or maybe the giving end, you can kind of put some perspective on it. And that way, if somebody, including yourself, needs this to happen, then maybe it's a good way to kind of start a conversation, kind of create a segue, kind of create a baseline. It's entirely up to y'all. But I feel like right now, a lot of us say we listen, but we don't. And here's how it relates to me. Now, I've talked about this in countless interludes in the past. I've talked about it in some of my gaming videos. I've talked about it in some of my movie reviews. I've talked about it in the older, what's it called? Let's Talk About Mini arc. But for me personally, it's tough for me to openly talk about myself, because at a young age, it was ingrained in me very young that, deeds not words, show don't tell, blah, 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 that kind of thing. And as I got older, it was more, I guess, along the lines that it was imbued upon me that people don't want to listen because there's more important fish to fry. There's more important things to worry about than just one person. And it's not just on bad things. It could be on good things. It could be, back in high school or university, I got good grades. I got the job that I wanted. It was never that one moment to just let me soak up the good or process and get out that bad poison in me. It was always just, it wasn't really just impressed upon me that it was almost not at a level of apathy per se, but more along the lines of, we are on a list of 100 things, we are on number 10, you are on number 95. And that hits hard. So for me, I suck it up, I clinch it, I bury it. But that's not healthy at all, because if you're not getting out anything, it becomes unhealthy, even if it's just, relishing in the good, because you don't have the opportunity to get it out. You don't have an opportunity to project, to celebrate, or to, like I said, get the poison out of your system. And as I continue to get older, I notice that I do conceal it. I do hide it, because there are more dire situations out there than just one person dealing with his demons and dealing with his interior battles. And that's the hardest thing too. There's a line by the band Anne Berlin. I think the song is called Breathe. It's revolution's not easy with a civil war on the inside. And I want you guys just to think about that for one moment is, how does that fit into your life? Sorry, my throat's really, really raw for some reason. I've been talking a lot. Anyway, and that's where the listening part comes in, because if you are unable to express yourself because you are dealing with these feelings that and these worries and these doubts that whoever you talk to is going to immediately quash it, you're going to keep holding it in. And that's not healthy. That's not good. It's going to damage you more than you can imagine, because it's damaged me. And not just, up here or in my emotions. It's damaged work relations. It's damaged personal relationships. It's done more harm than good. And it's probably why my body is in a little not as good shape as it should be at my mid to late 30s. But it's hard for me to talk about it. For me, talking about myself, it's like a vampire. I have to be invited to do it, because every time I do it, I feel like it's going to get quashed. I feel like somebody, statistically speaking, once again, statistically speaking about myself, not every person is the same way. It's either, I just need to talk about this. I need to get this off my chest. I need to feel validated. I need to feel affirmed. And I'd say 75% of my interactions, it is just, well, you need to do this, you need to do that, you can't do this, well, this is how I think it is, this is how it should be, this is my stake in it, and it's ergo, because it worked for me, it should work for you. And every person is different. And once again, I'm not saying that giving advice is unhealthy. It's giving unsolicited advice that the damage is done. And if it's unsolicited, it goes from an air of relatability to selfishness, I guess you could say, and that's damning to the person that is trying to parse through it. And it's only until recently that I really actually feel comfortable talking to a very select group of individuals, because they have told me flat out, and that's taken a lot of time and a lot of effort, and a lot of cases getting brained over the head. And I just want to give a couple of examples about how tough it is for me, given the personal relationships that I do have and that I do hold close to me. Christoph Frey, for example, it was easy for me to talk to him because he and I are really cut from the same cloth. We have the same personalities, we have the same mindset, we have the same persona. And he came to me flat out, without me pushing him, without me projecting, and he's like, hey man, I can relate, I can understand, I understand completely, and you can talk to me anytime, day or night. And that really helped me drop my guard, and I'm very happy and thankful to Christoph for that. But here's a big example about how tough it is for me. Ray. She is one of my best friends. She is the closest thing to family to me. Like, we are siblings for all intents and purposes. Family don't just end in blood, in the words of Bobby from Supernatural. But it took her to flat out say, dude, you can tell me anything. I'm not going to judge. I'm not going to give advice. I'm not going to say how my life is better and or worse than yours. That's not me. And we finally are able to have conversations because I don't have that concern that she is going to judge, that she's going to say, you need to do this differently, you can't do this, you can't, because that's been me for the majority of my life in any relationship that I've been in. It's never been just listening, it's never been affirming, it's never been understanding. And that is where the positivity comes in, and the relatability is when you feel validated, when you feel affirmed. And more recently, there's somebody incredibly close to me, somebody I hold very dear to my heart, who we finally had a couple of conversations, and they opened the doors to me as well, and listened and affirmed. And even though they don't quite understand where I'm coming from and what I'm going through, what I'm dealing with, they still are like, I don't understand, nor do I pretend to understand everything. But that doesn't mean I don't feel for you, I don't think about you, I don't care. And you would not believe how that does for me. Just how much that opens doors and how that helps me drop my guard. So why am I just bringing this into the equation? Why am I just not? Why is this not like an off the rails episode where I'm just ranting? Because it's much deeper than just me. Anybody who's been on social media or has taken 30 seconds out of the day to keep their ears open for just a modicum of time knows that you can hear people, you can read people hurting, dealing with their own civil wars, and they want to get better and they want to improve. But they don't have that support of somebody that is just willing to shut up and listen without any kind of unsolicited negativity. And that's the hardest part because, as I say, we want to be able to relate. But there's a difference in relatability and ego. And sometimes those two work together, sometimes they work apart. So, where am I going with all this? As I've said in my last interlude, the word listen has the exact same letters as the word silent. And that's what listening is. We probably have heard stories and songs in grade school saying, listen with your eyes, don't listen with your mouth. When somebody comes to you, it could be even as something simple as, oh my God, what a day. Just keep your lips shut for a few minutes and listen to what they have to say, because they'll be willing, when they're able to be process all of that, to have a more grounded conversation. And if you do have some suggestions, then they will be more receptive. But right now, I'm seeing more judgment, I'm seeing more advice, and I'm seeing less, I'm sorry you feel that way, that's tough, how can I help, how can I mean, and that's a reason why I'm prone to, reaching out to so many people, even if I know it's going to be tough for me to even understand or relate to, because when positivity outdoes negativity, you catch more snakes with honey than with vinegar, as the old saying goes. And it's true. Even if somebody can't relate to you, by at least letting you know, I'm sorry, or just not even saying anything, as I said, just letting them get it out of their system. Because as somebody talks, they're going to process, and maybe sometimes lightning will strike. And you won't believe the world of good that it does. You really wouldn't. It's absolutely incredible. You wouldn't believe the number of conversations I've had with, like my close friends. I mean, Koala, the person that I just talked about, Ray, Christoph, Harkov, who I've known for 20 plus years, and we have been to hell and back together. Just listening. Even if it's done via text message, letting them type and saying, go on, or, could you kind of explain that in a little more detail? Because it's hard for some people to really voice what they're, feeling. I'm not talking about alexithymia. I'm talking about even more subtle. You're feeling something negative, but you can't put it into words. It could be stress, it could be a relationship, it could be work, it could be finance, it could be a myriad of other things. It could be current events, it could be, what's happening currently right now in the content creator platform. Take your pick. There's no shortage of things to process, and some people are better at that than others. But if you are that person that needs to listen, just do it. Just don't say a word. Not even if somebody pauses for breath. Take the vampire approach. If they invite you to say, this is my thoughts, what's your input, then you can do it. But I can guarantee you right now, by just immediately shoehorning yourself into the equation and say, well, I did this and it worked for me, or you need to do this, you need to do that, or why are you complaining about this when this is sort of things happening? Because that immediately discounts how the person's feeling. It's not affirmation. That is condemnation. And even if it's supposedly, with good illusions backing it up, the road to hell is not paved, or the road to heaven is not paved with good intentions, as the saying goes. And you don't know the damage you're doing, because that just affirms their feelings of negativity, and they're going to wall up. They're going to suck it down. They're going to conceal it, and it's going to eventually crack. The dam is going to build, and it's going to break. So particularly right now with everything that's happening, we need to listen more than ever. We really do. It's imperative towards somebody's well-being. And once again, even if you don't know a person very well, if you're willing to take 2 seconds, or if they're like, hey, I'm sorry, I know we don't interact much, but I really need to ask this of you, do it. I'm not asking you to be a sin eater and take on their burden for them, but just take a few minutes. And to those people, once again, that are going to be negatively saying, well, I listen all the time, as I've said, when? When was the last time you honestly and openly were willing to listen? Because there's going to be some people that will immediately take offense to this. And I'm anticipating some people being like, well, you know, what you're saying is false, it's BS, you know, you're just being a drama nerd. No, it's not. And once again, I'm not throwing anybody under the bus with this. But given my experience and interactions I've had all through the course of my life, I don't talk about myself because of those reasons. And it's only now that I'm starting to drop my walls. And it's around people that are caring, that are honest, that are willing to do the effort, no matter on how big or how small a scale. They're willing to. And willingness is key. And that's why, you know, my very, very close circle outweighs a larger collective that should have been there in the past. And I'm not saying that if damage is done, we don't have the ability to turn it around, but you have to make that extra step. You have to show that person you are willing to do that. Because sometimes the scars run a lot deeper than they should. So I'm asking y'all one more time. Listen. Keep your ears open, keep your eyes open, and keep your lips shut. We need to heal as a species, no matter what we're going through, or no matter what's coming towards us. Revolutions will come, civil wars will go. But we cannot function on a base level if we're not willing to change. And that is the most subtle, the smallest, but also the one with the biggest change or biggest consequences, positive and negative. Because if we listen, and we interpret, and we affirm, then more good will come from that. And we can heal, and we can grow. And in turn, we can pass it on to other people who come to us. Because we are open, our hearts are open, our minds are open. But it's that one little thing that we need to focus on. So with that being said, take 5 minutes. Whether it's a friend, whether it's a family member, whether it's an acquaintance, listen. And if you're going through hard times, tell them, tell somebody you can trust. Please, just listen to me. Don't say a word. Just do it. Because I can guarantee you right now, you will not believe the positivity that comes from that.